guys, welcome back to Release the Craftin. Priscilla here with a Mabon collaboration DIY spectacular. So this month I teamed up with Jeneen over at Lipstick Legion Craft. I will link her video and her channel down below so you guys can go check that out. We got together and decided to make some DIYs for this Sabbath, and this is what I have made. Some of this stuff is just extra stuff I had on hand. I'll show you what I'm making in the video as we go along, but I made 3 awesome Maven-specific DIYs, and hope that you guys really enjoy it. I'm just going to jump right into the video. Just wanted to give you guys a little sneak peek and tell you what this was about. I'm really excited. Maven is one of my favorite holidays on the wheel of the year. It's not my top favorite, but it's definitely like up there, and I feel like it's pretty underrated. It kind of sneaks through at this time of the year, and people sort of pass it off as like, well, it's just the pagan Thanksgiving. And I feel like Maven has so much more to offer than that, being the second harvest and, you know, the official start of the autumn season. I hope with this video you guys will see how much you can do for Maven, and maybe some of this stuff you'll want to incorporate onto your own altars and stuff. So let's just jump into it, and I will show you guys what I'm making. Alright, so first up, we're going to make a Maven mulling cider spice blend mix. It's a really long way of saying we're just making mulling spices. For this recipe, I have used 3 parts of cinnamon for strength and love, 1 part clove for protection and prosperity, 1 part allspice for compassion and success, 1 part star anise for protection and clarity, and half of a whole nutmeg ground down for health and luck, half a part of freeze-dried ginger for grounding and passion, and 2 parts of dried oranges for abundance and renewal, as well as 1.5 parts of dried lemon for happiness and longevity. So basically all I'm going to do here is break up the cinnamon. I broke my stone mortar and pestle, so I'm trying to do it in this wooden one. It doesn't work. I had to use my fingers to break down every piece. It's okay. Hands are clean. Definitely do this with clean hands. And then I'm just adding in the other spices as I need to. And I'm trying to focus on like harvest blessings, things that I'm grateful for as I'm making this, so that this gets infused with really good intention, and just reminding myself as I put each spice in what they're supposed to represent and what they're bringing to the mix. This is really good on its own as a tea, but also you can just make a little baggie of this and toss it into like a little pot of like apple juice or apple cider and get like a really lovely fall time beverage that's warm and like soothing, as well as spicy, so it's actually warming if you're in a place where it gets cold this time of year. This is the perfect thing for like a cold night. I do not get cold here until about November, so I'm gonna save mine for November. But I'm so excited. This is one of my favorite things. So you can see here, I'm just using a pair of kitchen shears. Make sure yours are clean, but they really do make like the work of breaking down dried fruits and spices and stuff like that like really easy. Especially if you don't have a mortar and pestle, I would definitely recommend a good strong pair of kitchen shears. So basically, my thought when approaching this was just trying to capture like what Maven means, what this time of year means. And for me, like, Maven is like a time of fruition, reaping what you've sown. There's all this abundance, so you know, like, there's so much to be grateful for at this time of the year. It's the second harvest festival. There's just a lot going on that you can like celebrate. You can celebrate accomplishments, you can share in other people's successes. This is the time of year when all that stuff starts to come up, or you can just look back on the year that you've had and sort of reflect on that. As you can see here, I am just storing this in a Dollar Tree jar. It makes a really pretty like display, and then it's going to keep really well there. Those jars are really nice. And then I have some reusable like tea bags that I'm going to stuff this in, so I can throw that into a pot later on when it does get warm, like colder here. And I'm just going to tie that off with just some regular twine for now, until I need to use it later. But yeah, for me, I think this is a really great way to just sort of sit down, drink a nice warming beverage, and think about what I've accomplished this year and all the prosperity and stuff that I have to show for it. And also to like think about balance. Like Maven and Ostara especially are times of balance. Like that's when you have equal times of day and night. it's just a really good time to reflect. So for our second DIY, this is going to be like a Mabon inspired shadow box gratitude sort of thing. You'll see it when it all comes together. I don't really have a word for what this is. Basically, you just need, this is a wooden canvas and some paint. I have some wood stain. It's not required. You can just use some watered down brown acrylic paint. It'll do the same thing. I'm just going to wipe it back though so I can get some of that wood grain in there and keep that towards the surface so it looks a little bit more rustic. I'm just going to apply that liberally. My idea with making this was to make something that I could have visually on my altar, but also a place where I could, come to and repeatedly store things that I'm grateful for as I move through this like half of the year, the dark half of the year. I want to keep adding stuff to it, and I can do that the entire time. And if I want to, I can leave all of the things I'm grateful for in there, or I can pull them out to use them in a ritual later on. You can leave them in there until the next year and then open up your little bottle and see what's stuff that you were thankful for last year. If you're still thankful for it, double down on it, or just thank it for being something that was present in your life at the time. And start on the next year's blessings. So I think this is a really fun idea. It's something that I'll keep for a really long time, and I'm gonna really enjoy bringing it out onto my altar every Mabon season. So I tried to keep this as simple as possible. It's pretty straightforward. You could choose to paint yours any color. It doesn't have to be brown. Brown is one of the colors of the season for Mabon. You can also use red, burgundies, golds, yellows, purples even, oranges, any traditional autumn color. I would maybe spice it up with a little bit of blue. Another thing you can do when choosing whatever you're going to put in your background is you can put in pictures of your family. That would be a fun idea. Things that you're already grateful for. I'm going to use an image from my Autumn Witchery kit. It's probably one of my favorite images from this kit. It's going to fit in here perfectly, which I was so happy about. I was afraid I was going to have to cut the stag down. But I wanted to do something that kind of combined some elements of the season, and I didn't have anything photographic on hand, but I thought this would be a really perfect fit. Other animals that are associated with this season would be squirrels, owls, blackbirds, goats even, wolves, wild geese. Those are all I can think of off the top of my head. There's a lot of other animals. Definitely anything you see, foxes. I think the cool thing about Mabon is that if you are in the broom closet, it is a holiday that you can celebrate relatively easy, because a lot of the symbols and stuff that you find this time of year are going to be traditional autumn decor. So it's not going to look too out of like the norm for you to decorate with just regular fall things, because it is the time to celebrate the changing of the season, and it's available everywhere. Everyone loves fall. The decorations are all over the place. I'm just going to Mod Podge this to the background and not do anything else too fancy. I just want to make sure that it gets stuck down as flat as possible. So I'm going to come back in here with my bone folder and just sort of make sure that I get it really smoothed out, and also like to press that glue out because I don't want it to just sort of like pool up underneath the image. And then I'm going to go around the edge with some copper paint. I used copper for my last DIY as well. I like to use metallic colors for fall. I like to use metallics in general, but usually I stick to like golds and coppers and bronzes for the Mabon holiday specifically. But I want to come around here and add this to the edge just to bring some light to the picture, because it is a dark, like on the inside it's dark on those sides because I used that brown wood stain. So I just kind of want to bring some more light to this. You'll see I'll come up with some other ways to bring some more light into this so that it doesn't get too dark with all the colors that I chose. You could even make this into like a sort of shrine effigy or shadow box to like a particular harvest deity or a deity for Mabon. Other deities for the Mabon season would be Mabon, of course, Epona, Persephone, Hades, Demeter, Dionysus, Thor, Bacchus, Pomona, Snake Woman, Morgan even would be a good one for the deities. Snake Woman also, if you practice any Native American faiths. Those would be good deities that you could turn into shadow boxes and add your gratitude or your prayers specifically to that deity. So right now what I'm doing is I am going to use this matte varnish. It's almost like matte medium, but it's a little bit different in consistency to sort of go over the entire top. I added way too much. I could have just painted it on like a normal person, but I wanted to make like a layer of it to really set that picture in. As you can see, I had to scoop a bunch out because I realized my mistake. It still was too much, but it came out pretty cool at the end. You guys will see. But I'm going to make sure I cover that really nicely. I want to seal it down. You could also do this with just matte Mod Podge, but I had this in my stash and I've never used it, so I wanted to use it now. It is a lot like matte medium if you have that too. Not a requirement. Mod Podge works just fine. So here I'm just going to go around the edge while it's still wet and add in some glass glitter in gold. Like I said, I wanted to make sure that there was light in this like display so that it didn't get too muddy or dark. And one of the really easy ways to do that is to make it shiny. So here I'm just playing around with placement. I have a little tiny bottle and I have a bunch of fall leaves. And I'm just trying to think of what I want to do. What you can't really see, but you can maybe kind of tell, is off camera I dried this with my heat tool, and what happened was the varnish crackled. So it like dried up and seized up and turned into this really cool crackle finish in the background. I'm really happy with like that effect. It wasn't planned at all. I'm gonna do that intentionally in the future. It was not intentional here though. It was kind of a surprise, but I had a lot of fun. So now I'm just gluing down some leaves and stuff. Just to sort of add some more dimension to our little shadow box. There's nothing too crazy here. I decided to add in some star anise as well, only to tie it back into the mulling spices that we made, as well as to just sort of add some more texture and dimension. I didn't want to get too crazy dimensional with this little shadow box. I wanted it to be more of a display piece, but at the same time, I wanted to add some interesting elements so it had some layers. And then here I'm just trying to decide again where I want this bottle to go. And then using some E6000 to glue it down. You could do all of this with hot glue. I just didn't want to plug my glue gun in. And then I'm going to go over the top of the moon because I decided it needed some more, something just a little bit more flashier. With some glossy accents, just so that that gets like nice and shiny and sort of enhances the moon aspect of this. I really had a lot of fun playing with the idea of like harvest moons. As you'll see in my next DIY, that was sort of my focus as well. So I wanted to bring attention to the moon element in here. And then to finish it off, I'm just making a bow out of some like random fibers that I had in my stash. These all, I believe, like every single one came from the Dollar Tree. And then I'm just going to glue those down just to sort of finish off the frame. I felt like it was unfinished, but I didn't know how I wanted to sort of top it off. I didn't have anything interesting to go like in the centerpiece, but this bow I think really brings it together and adds like a fun, interesting textile element. And then now I'm writing down what I'm grateful for. And it's you guys. So thank you guys so much for watching. I have been really grateful for all the attention that I've gotten this year, all the comments and the likes, the people who have reached out to me to send me their like personal messages. Like, I'm super thankful for that. So thank you guys. So there we have it. There is our finished shadow box with our little gratitude inside. And like you see, there's some space in that bottle. You could use a bigger jar if you want to and add some more things to be grateful for. So for our last DIY, I'm going to make a altar tray stand out of this wooden round piece and an old candlestick holder that I got like from a thrift store way long ago. So long ago I can't even remember why I picked it up in the first place. So I'm going to glue it to the bottom of this cake stand and make it into like a base I'm sorry, of this wooden round and make it into like a cake stand base. Um, and then I'm going to paint it up, and you guys are going to see I just have some of that copper paint still and some off-white paint, as well as a crackle medium from Deco Art. And I think you guys are really going to like this one. This was probably my favorite of the DIYs I did. It was really fun. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the entire surface copper. And stick with me on this one, because I know you guys are going to be like, whoa, that's a little much, but just wait. This is going to come out so cool. In addition to like the golds and coppers you could use this year, I would also look at the gemstones you could incorporate into your crafts. That shadow box could have benefited from like some cool gemstones. Other gemstones associated with this holiday are citrine, yellow agates, topaz, amber, sapphire even, tiger's eye. Hematite is a really good stone for this time of year. So now that I've painted everything here copper, I'm going to go over the top of this with that crackle medium. I'm being pretty generous because I want to have a nice size crackle, but not like so much that it's running off the sides, because it's kind of viscous, but it's going to run over the sides if you get too crazy. So I'm just trying to hit every surface with this crackle medium. The instructions on the bottle say to let it dry completely, and then to paint over the top with your final color. As you'll see later on, I do not let it dry completely because I wanted to experiment with it a little bit, because I hadn't used it for so long I couldn't remember the best way to get the crackles. So what happens is if you let it dry completely and then you paint over the top of it, it gets like really, really fine, sort of like old furniture crackle size crackles. But if it's still kind of wet, as you see here, you get really large crackles. The only issue is that you have to be careful when you're applying the paint, because you don't get like a second time around. You have to be pretty quick with it, and you can't overwork it, or you'll move that medium around if you leave it wet. If you let it dry completely like the instructions say, and then paint on top of it, you'll get really nice fine crackling, and you have a little bit more of work, like room to work with, because it takes a little bit longer for those cracks to be like exposed. But basically you're just going to go over the top with a nice thin layer of paint, not like super thin, but like not super thick either. You don't want to glob it on because it has to break through the surface. But I really like the breaks in texture and the fact that some of it was totally dry and some of it wasn't. You get a really nice variation on cracks. Also keep in mind that whatever direction you paint in is going to be the direction that your cracks appear in. I didn't care about this because it's the bottom. It's not really going to be seen unless I pick up the tray, but for the top especially, I went all one direction because I wanted to make sure that those cracks looked like they belonged. So around this time of year, there's a lot of different magic that you can do. It doesn't just have to be like harvest and home and gratitude stuff. You can do protection work this time of year. You can do harmony blessings, peace blessings, any gratitude magic, of course, any magic around the house. This is a really great time of year to clean your house and do cleansing work, as well as release negativity and bad habits. That's like one of my favorite things, is to sort of do a little bit of shadow work, dig deep, and decide which habits I can get rid of at this time of year. And if there's any spell work that can be done, Mabon is the perfect time to do that. Baking and kitchen witchery is perfect this time of year. As you can see, I've put the crackle medium on the top, and while that dries, I'm going to cut a little cardboard moon shape out of some old like chipboard from the back of a paper pad. While that dries, and I'm going to use my mortar and pestle bowl as my stencil, so any circular object will work. And I just want to make sure that it fits on the top of that surface and looks nice. And what I'm going to do is go over the top of this with a bunch of leaves. These are from Michael's. They were like the really cheapy, like dollar ones. I think they were like $1.15 after all was said and done. But you can also get these from the Dollar Tree. I had some others from the Dollar Tree, but I like the colors on this one specifically, so I use these ones. And I'm going to Mod Podge them down. You could probably do this with just regular hot glue as well. I don't think they really have to be Mod Podge down. I would go over the top with Mod Podge and then press it flat like I'm going to do later. This red leaf, though, would not go flat or stick down no matter how hard I try. And I tried twice because I you know, I had to try twice to see if it would go down. So I gave up on those ones specifically, but the other ones all worked just fine. It just takes quite a bit of glue to get them to adhere, so be aware of the amount of glue you're going to need to get, like, fake florals to glue flat. I'm going to be kind of random with my patterning over the top of this, and I'm going to try to sort of break it up and get a good mix of colors, and I'm going to make sure that I go over the edge on both sides of the crescent shape so that I can trim off the excess later. Other types of magic that you could do around this time of year would be a really great time to work with any like powers of divinity that you work with, any like matron patron deities. Do your offerings at this time of year and just, you know, give them thanks, especially to deities, ancestors, your house or your land spirits. I would do any sort of gratitude work just to let them know that you're thankful for their support throughout the year. This would be a really great time of year to do that. And also magic for healing and community. I don't think enough is said in the spiritual community about how important community work is, but I would definitely consider doing that type of magic at this type of year, just to sort of help keep, you know, yourself mindful of the community, but also, you know, to bring support in the community where it's needed, whichever community you choose to be involved in or a part of. This is a really great time of year to do that. In addition to being the quote-unquote official pagan Thanksgiving, this is also the first day of autumn. It is the autumn equinox. So there are equal times of day and night. That means that there's going to be as much sun as there is night. So this is a really great time of year to really focus on balance and other things that bring balance to your life. So now that the crackle has mostly dried on the top of this, I'm just going to go back over the top and paint that just like I did to the base. And you can see here, I try to keep it pretty much in one direction. And because I let this dry more than the others, I have some more like time to work, although it is still pretty wet at the top. And then I'm just going to keep the cracks going in the same direction, like I said, so that it looks a little bit more like a homogeneous piece. Like it's all one solid piece of wood, and everything's going the same direction as it should. And you can see I go over the top and sort of touch some places that I like overworked the paint a little bit. I'm not really super worried because I am going to put that moon piece that we made on top of it so I can cover up any like errors, but just try to be a little bit careful. So I'm going to let that dry. And after that dries, I'm going to take our moon piece, which I flattened between some wax paper underneath a stack of books. And then I'm just going to trim off all the excess overhang. If you wanted to leave yours like overhanging and a little more wild looking, you totally can. I would be a little bit more mindful of the placement of the leaves as you're doing that, so it doesn't get like, you know, out of shape as you go through. But I wanted to trim mine down, and I really love how this looks. Really happy with how they came out with. Or how it came out, sorry. Words are hard. And now I'm just going to try to decide which side looks the best, you know, where I like that moon on. And then I'm going to glue it down using a combination of E6000 and Fabri-Tac. This could also be done with hot glue, but I chose to do these. I use both of them because one sticks faster than the other and one is super permanent. That was basically my only motivation. So, other things you could use other than a moon this year if you wanted to make your own tray, would be apples are a good symbol for Mabon, as well as pumpkins, any gourds, acorns, pine cones, a sickle or a cornucopia would be appropriate, as well as the bowling. Even the Empress card would work for this time of year. Here I just have a 2-part resin kit that I got. It's from Tim Holtz. I got it at Michael's with the coupon. It was like $6. You do not have to do this step. You can skip this step entirely if you don't want to resin the top of yours. If you don't want to, I would just Mod Podge over the top to seal everything down and make sure it doesn't come up, and then it would be done. But I wanted to try out some resin, so I'm just mixing together this 2-part epoxy In a paper cup, if you're going to do this, you want to use a disposable cup. You also want to wear gloves. Don't be like me. And make sure that you have plenty of ventilation, because this stuff stinks and it is not good for you. And so after some vigorous stirring, I'm going to add some gold foil flakes to the mix because I want this to be sparkly. But also I felt like this was a little bit flat, so I wanted to sort of jazz it up a bit, and I think it adds a really great play on light and gives it some more dimension, especially in the resin, gives it a lot more dimension. So this was my first pour, and after this set, and I threw the second cup out that I had unnecessarily, after this set, I came back and did another pour of just clear resin on top with nothing in it. Because as the resin settled down, the foil became very bumpy because it was actually bigger than the resin, which didn't make any sense to me, but I didn't question it. I just poured more resin on top. And basically all we're going to do is pour this, make sure that it reaches all the sides. I used some painter's tape to mark off the edges. I want to make sure that you seal that down really well so it doesn't leak out. But once I made sure that it hit every side, I went back with my heat tool and popped any bubbles I could see, which was not necessary. This resin actually mixes really nicely and really like super clear. It sort of breaks up most of the bubbles on its own, but I wanted to be sure that there wasn't any bubbles, so I got rid of it with my heat tool. And here I'm just sort of spreading things out to make sure I get a good disbursement on the foil itself, so it doesn't all pool in one spot. And then I let that sit overnight, and then I came back and poured the clear layer on top of that, and then let that cure for a couple of days. So what else can I say about Mabon? This is a really great time of year if you're a kitchen witch and you're doing any kitchen witchery. Any food that's seasonal to this time of year is appropriate, such as apples, dried fruits, nuts, squash, pomegranates, bread, seeds, potatoes, root vegetables are really good for this time of year. Onions, wine is a great one, grapes, corn, beans, ale, cider, and pies. I can't stress the wine enough. This is like a holiday for Dionysus, so wine is absolutely appropriate. So after the resin has set, I debated on how I wanted the edge to look, if I wanted to finish it up with gold to give it another pop of color, or if I wanted to make it match or just leave it as is. I decided I just wanted to bring that copper color all the way up. So I go around the edge twice to make sure that I get that resin totally painted, and I think it gives it like a really nice seamless look and kind of mask any of the mistakes. My painter's tape got a little bit wobbly, a little bit wonky. This is my first time actually pouring resin, so I learned some lessons, but I'm not mad at it. I'm actually really happy with how this came out. I can definitely see myself doing some more resin craft in the future. But painting over the edges like this sort of masked any mistakes, and also the painter's tape tore up a bunch of paint when I pulled it off. So thanks, painter's tape, you're doing the best job. But here you can see the edges after I painted up everything. It looks really great. I'm super happy with how it came out. Like, I'm super stoked on this. Alright guys, that is it. These are our Mabon DIYs. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and if you are going to try out any of these, let me know in the comments down below. I definitely want to see that. I hope that you got a lot of info from this video and you found it useful, and that, you know, you can see some of the value of the harvest season, as well as ways to apply these DIYs to other sabbats as well, because I think they're pretty versatile and can be used for lots of things. I may even make a couple more of these pedestals, because I think they make really great altar stands, especially when you want to get a little height on your altar. For maybe the other equinoxes and solstices. I don't know. If you want to see more of that, let me know in the description or in the comments. And that's going to be it for me, guys. Look forward to more witchy DIYs in the future. Hopefully there'll be some more fun collaborations. I really had a great time collabing with Jeneen. I'm really glad that she invited me into this collaboration. And we'll probably do it again. I appreciate your faces. Stay safe, guys. Bye.